The movie begins with Yoon Ji-woo, a student who does exercise to keep herself fit. While on her way to school, she is interrogated by police about her father, but she goes away without answering them. When she reaches her classroom, a fatbass girl along with her two friends tries to bully her as usual by calling her the daughter of a gangster. Ji-woo loses her control and beats the shit out of that chubby girl. The principal of the school arrives there and expels her from school. Ji-woo goes back to her home and surprisingly, the police officers are still after her. They try to interrogate her once again, but she ignores them and moves on. As soon as she reaches back home, she sees some gifts along with a bouquet at the doorstep. However, she is so pissed off that she kicks them away and enters home. Her father, Mr. Dong, calls her from a public telephone and wishes her a happy birthday. However, she is quite angry with him as she tells him that the police have been following her for 1 month. Also, no one likes talking to her because she is the daughter of a gangster. Moreover, she has been kicked off from the school too, just like the way my ex kicked me off from her life. Her dad tells her to wait just a little bit more and everything will be alright. However, Ji-woo is done with him, and cuts the call after saying that he is dead for her from now onwards. Ji-woo's dad somehow manages to reach her home while avoiding the police. He finds the gifts he sent outside her home, and just when he is about to open the door, someone shoots him from behind. Upon hearing the gunshots, Ji-woo tries to open the door to see what has happened. However, her father has tightly grasped the handle, so that Ji-woo doesn't open the door and the shooter doesn't kill her either. Later on, the funeral rites of Mr. Dong are performed and the boss of his gang, Dong-chun, Choi Moo-jin, arrives there. Ji-woo asks him who killed her father and he replies that her father was like a brother to him and he doesn't know who killed him. Saying this, he leaves. Ji-woo is in sheer pain and gets the flashbacks of old days when she was sitting along with her father on the beach and told him that they would build a home and shift there. Upon getting flashbacks of all the memories with her father, she cries a lot. The next day she goes to the police station to find out the murderer of her father. However, the police have closed the case of her father's murder due to unknown reasons. She yells at them for doing this, but in vain. Therefore, she decides to find the murderer herself. She prints out the photo of the murderer from the CCTV footage. Although the photo is unclear, some people offer to guide her about the murderer and ask her to come along with them. Things get a bit scary for her when they try to get physical with her instead of helping her find the killer. She tries to dodge them, but in vain. They put her in the car's trunk and try to kidnap her. To her good luck, Dong-chun's boss Choi Moo-jin arrives there and saves her from those hooligans. Moo-jin tells her that in order to avenge the death of her father and kill the murderer, she needs to learn how to kill someone. He takes her to his gym where his gang members train themselves. This is very awkward for Ji-woo since she is the only girl among them. A guy named Do Gong-jae takes her to her room. The next day, she begins her training. However, she faces severe difficulties as the other gang members tease her in every possible way. Ignoring all these hurdles, she trains herself hard, and there comes the day when all the gang members fight among themselves. Ji-woo knocks out everyone and she faces Gong-jae in the final. She wins this fight too and Moo-jin gets really happy. Later on, Gong-jae is pissed off because everyone is humiliating him for getting beaten by a girl, and now he wants to satisfy his ego by taking his revenge. He mixes some drugs in her water and plans with his friend Cholho to rape her. As soon as she drinks that water, she gets unconscious. Gong-jae and Cholho arrive there and try to sexually assault her. However, Ji-woo isn't fully unconscious because she drank only a small amount of water. Therefore, she somehow manages to fight them even though she is half conscious. While fighting, a pot breaks and she uses one of its fragments to break Cholho's nuts. Then she pierces the same fragment into Gong-jae's stomach. Moo-jin's most trustworthy man, Taeju, arrives there and takes Dongja to him. Since Dongja used to be one of the best fighters of his gang, Moo-jin decides to spare his life. However, he expels him from his gang and leaves a mark on his face with his knife, so that he always remembers what he did. Later on, Moo-jin brings Ji-woo to a restaurant, where he used to come along with her father. He hands her some papers telling her that Dongja killed the old Ji-woo, and from now onwards, her new name is Oh Hae-jin. He is doing all this because he knows Dongja will surely come back to take his revenge. Following this, he gives her a gun that belongs to the policeman who killed her father. He asks her to find him and kill him, while telling her that she is now a part of his gang from this day. Also, if she ever tries to betray him, he will kill her. On the other hand, Taeju fakes Ji-woo's death, as he tells everyone in their gang that Gong-jae has killed Ji-woo. The scene shifts to 5 years later, when Jae-woo has become a police officer as Hae-jin. She follows a group of drug dealers and ruins their meeting by knocking down everyone. Another person sitting there, named Jae-woo Pildo, also starts fighting the drug dealers along with her. She captures the drug dealer and tries to take him away with her. However, Pildo asks her to let him take him along with himself because he is from the narcotics department. However, she doesn't agree to do so. Suddenly she receives a call from her senior, who tells her to hand over the drug dealer to the narcotics department. Although she gets frustrated, she unwillingly hands him over to the narcotics department. On the other hand, Mujin is betrayed by the company he entrusted to make his drugs. In revenge, Mujin's people kill all the employees of that company without mercy. They also lock the boss in a car and release poisonous gas into it. Meanwhile, Haejin visits the narcotics captain, Giho. She tells him that she is from the anti-violence squad but wants to join the narcotics department to help eliminate drugs from Korea. Impressed by her determination, Captain Giho adds her to his team. Haejin then meets Mujin and informs him that she has been transferred to the narcotics department. She has joined it to investigate the connection between Captain Giho and her father's murder, as she had seen him near her house after her father's death, raising her suspicions. Mujin tells Haejin that 10 years ago their organization was attacked. He was nearly killed, but her father saved him. Mujin then gives Haejin his knife, urging her to find and kill the person who murdered her father, assuring her that he will always support her. Meanwhile, Pildo, from the narcotics department, asks a drug dealer Chang-gu about his boss. Chang-gu doesn't reveal his boss's identity but mentions a gangster named Mango who is selling a new type of drug in Korea. On Haejin's first day in the narcotics department, Pildo goes to Captain Giho and asks about her. Giho explains that Jin wants to rid Korea of drugs, and believes she is a capable officer, so she will be part of Pildo's team. Pildo and his team, including Jin, go to find Mango. Jin goes to a casino in search of him, and Pildo follows. Jin fights and defeats several people, killing them and capturing Mango. However, there is no proof of Mango selling drugs. Pildo's team starts to monitor the area, and eventually, Jin finds drugs hidden in a bottle. Pildo sends Mango to the police station with his team, but though Pildo doesn't praise Jin, he is impressed by her work. On the other hand, Gong-jae, who once tried to harm Jin after losing to her, is now a drug dealer. Jin discovers information related to her father's murder in the narcotics department's files. Captain Gong-jae gathers all the narcotics officers and collects their phones in a bag. He then informs them that they've located Mujin's hideout and that Mujin will be there tonight. The plan is to catch him with evidence. The officers, including Pildo and Jin, arrive at Mujin's location, which is also the place where his people used to make drugs. They surround the area and Jin spots Mujin. Before the officers can catch him, Jin shoots a bullet, alerting Mujin and his men, causing them to flee and jump into the sea. The officers try to figure out who fired the shot, which disrupted their plan. Jin picks up the gun and gives it to Captain Giho. This gun was the same one Mujin gave Jin, and it was also used to kill Jin's father. Captain Giho later checks all his officers' weapons, but finds that none of them has that specific gun or bullet. That night, Pildo and Jin meet up with other officers to have a drink. Pildo tells Jin that Mujin recently killed a low-ranking narcotics officer, which made Captain Giho hate him even more. Following this, Jin calls Mujin and warns him about a mole in their organization who has installed hidden cameras to spy on him. Mujin finds and destroys all the cameras. Meanwhile, Gong-jae with some of his men enters Mujin's gym and kills everyone there. Taiju tries to stop Gong-jae but gets captured and has his hands cut off. When the police learn about the bloodshed at Mujin's gym, they rush there, but Gong-jae and his men escape. No one at the gym reveals Gong-jae's identity, and the police find no evidence linking the gym to Mujin. However, Pildo finds drugs that are identical to the ones Mango was selling. Mujin's security reports this to him, and he's concerned. At the same time, Captain Giho receives information from one of his informants, who identifies Gong-jae as the attacker at the gym. The drugs found there also suggest that Mango and Gong-jae are working together. Captain Giho then devises a plan to capture Mango when Gong-jae meets him. He tells the team that he'll meet his informant tonight, but Jin shares this with Mujin. That night, Jin follows Captain Giho because she wants to learn the identity of his informant in Mujin's group. She runs across the roof of a building to find him but accidentally bumps into Pildo. Pildo asks her to remove her helmet, but she doesn't recognize him, so she knocks him down and escapes with her bag in front of the informant. She then discovers that the informant is Taiju. After Jin escapes, Pildo informs the captain, saying that he was right about there being someone from Mujin's group among them. He remembers seeing the person with the helmet near the captain before. The captain expresses his suspicion about Jin, believing that ever since she arrived, things have been happening that point to her. He thinks Jin must have been the one to find out about the camera and fired the shot that scared off Mujin and helped him escape. While running away, Jin was injured. She later calls Mujin and tells him that she saw Taiju at the scene, but she can't be sure if Taiju is the informant. She warns that it could be a plot to frame Taiju and weaken Mujin. When Taiju arrives, Mujin reacts normally, showing no sign of suspicion. The next morning, Jin goes to the forensic department to trace the details of the gun Captain Gi-ho sent there for investigation. She gets the serial number of the gun from them. Actually, she had fired it intentionally, the same gun that killed her father, to figure out whose gun it is. Jin goes to Captain Gi-ho to learn more about the gun, and asks him about Corporal Song, whose name the gun is registered under. The captain explains that Song was part of his team but died in the first month of joining, killed by Mu-jin. After hearing this, Jin becomes even more suspicious of Captain Gi-ho being involved in her father's death. She then meets Mu-jin and asks if he has ever killed a police officer, mentioning that the gun that killed her father belonged to one. She tells him that the captain claims Mu-jin is the one who killed him. Mu-jin responds by saying that they never kill police officers and that the captain is lying. He is probably playing a game. He advises Jin to stay away from the captain. Meanwhile, Gong-jae beats Mango in a violent rage because the police had taken drugs from Mango but let him go free, which Gong-jae couldn't accept. Mango then shows Gong-jae a photo of Jin, revealing that she is behind everything. Gong-jae laughs upon seeing her, recognizing Jin and feeling glad to see her alive. Later, Jin and Pildo receive information that Mango is meeting Gong-jae for another drug deal, so they chase him. They follow him to a garage where someone is supposed to deliver drugs to Mango. Gong-jae arrives, gives the drugs to Mango, and sends him away. However, a large group of people suddenly attack Jin and Pildo, and they both try desperately to escape. But in vain, they get caught, and Gong-jae bursts into laughter upon seeing Jin and tells her that it's time to pay back for what she did to him. He's going to kill her and get his revenge. He stabs Jin's feet. Meanwhile, Mu-jin is seen at his favorite spot enjoying a plate of fish. He asks the restaurant owner to grab a cigarette for him. He then starts attacking and killing the people there one by one. Mu-jin is also injured by a knife during the chaos. All those people were Gong-jae's men. Soon after, Gong-jae contacts his crew. Mu-jin picks up the call. Gong-jae shows him a photo of Jin and warns that if he wants to see her alive, he needs to come quickly, because time is running out. Gong-jae then locks Jin and Pildo inside a van and places it under a crushing machine. The van gets completely smashed, but just then Mu-jin crashes into the machine, allowing Jin to escape. Pildo, however, remains trapped. As police sirens approach, Mu-jin runs away while Jin tries to help save Pildo stuck underneath the machine. Soon, the police arrive and rush them to the hospital. The next day, we see Taiju interrogating two of Gong-jae's men. He's trying to get information about Gong-jae despite being badly beaten. They refuse to reveal anything. Meanwhile, Pildo also starts searching for Gong-jae after Jin gets hurt. Jin keeps having terrifying dreams of her father in the hospital. After one nightmare, she wakes up to find Pildo standing before her. Pildo explains that his sister died because of the drugs sold by these gangsters. He doesn't know who exactly they are, but he knows that Jin is after someone like that, and promises to help her no matter what. He then takes her from the hospital to a restaurant for food. Several members from her department are also there. Meanwhile, Mu-jin gives his secretary Jin's passport and tells her that she's his friend's daughter. They need to get her out of the country. He asks her to arrange a house, a flight ticket, and a house near the beach. Later, when Jin returns home, she gets a call from Mu-jin. He tells her he has made arrangements for her to leave the country and she must go. But despite his insistence, Jin refuses to go and ends the call. Mu-jin's actions were driven by the fear that if Gong-jae was caught, he might reveal the truth to the police. Meanwhile, the captain orders one of his men to bring him the call log details of a number. The next day, Jin returns to the police station, only to be taken aback by the sight of a particular officer. This officer was the same person who had been tailing her 5 years ago in connection with her father's case. The captain notices her discomfort and instructs the officer to come with him. The officer hands Jin his business card before going into the captain's office and suggests they go out for dinner. As the officer begins to leave, Jin approaches him. He asks if she's still searching for her father's killer. She questions him, asking why he didn't tell the captain about her. The officer responds, saying he doesn't want to get involved in anyone's business. He then points out that she's now an officer herself. However, he tells her he has some important news, that 5 years ago, it was the captain who decided to close her father's case. After their conversation, the officer visits Mu-jin and confronts him. He accuses Mu-jin of playing a dangerous game with Jin. He goes on to say that he has encountered many criminals in his life, but Mu-jin is the worst he has ever seen. The officer then demands a large sum of money and drugs in exchange for keeping his mouth shut about Mu-jin's involvement. He threatens to expose Mu-jin's true nature to Jin if his demands are not met. In response, Mu-jin calmly gestures to one of his men, who then kills the officer and dumps his body into the water. This raises many questions. Why was Mu-jin so terrified of the officer revealing the truth that he had to kill him? Who is the real killer of Jin's father, and will Jin ever uncover the truth? Additionally, where is Dongjae, who has gone missing after attacking Jin? With so many unanswered questions, the story is about to take even more unexpected and thrilling turns.